Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, to today's topic where we are going to talk about money and dating, and more specifically, the differences in dating experiences as you go across or up or down or all around these socioeconomic classes. Before we get started, please do me a favor, like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so, ring the notification bell, enable all notifications for this channel. If you want to come up here or if you have any questions, there's a link pinned in the top of the chat there, depending upon whatever platform you're on. This is on YouTube, Twitch, Rumble, Odyssey, all of those ones. So whatever platform you're on, click on that if you want to come up here. If you have any questions, leave them down below in the comments or in the live chat, and we'll pop up on the screen and discuss. That being said, let's go ahead and kick it off. So how are you guys doing today? Fantastic. We were
phenomenal.
Always, my friend.
It's a good day.
Always.
We were so this will be a fun topic. We actually got into it in the pre-show. Like, all right, let's hold on for a minute, and then we'll get going. So let's start in order. In terms of being broke and dating, and you hear a lot of guys in the manosphere or red pill type spaces, and always talk about, well, can't get girls if you don't have money. And I think we've all been there. And I've actually surprisingly found personally that when I don't have a lot of money, I don't have a lot going on, which means I have a lot more time for dating, and I usually do a lot better. However, when I have a lot more going on, usually it's kind of like, okay, yeah, I have that option, but I'd rather focus on my business, or I'd rather focus on this, or, oh, I have a really cool trip, or, oh, I have a live stream with my bros. So we can go ahead and kick off the topic there and then just let this thing flow.
Yeah, it's a fun topic, especially as you personally kind of go through it. And as especially from the guy's perspective, right? It's like kind of fun when you can look back and be like, oh yeah, these were like how I went through and progressed. And like what you said, when you're broke, it's funny and entertaining because on the one hand, it's like, oh, you don't have that much capital and so much flexibility to do certain things. But on the other hand, it kind of frees up a ton of like your time to really focus in on like, going out there and dating a bit. And you'd be surprised at how creative it makes you and forces you to be.
Exactly what I was thinking.
And the other states in San Diego, that was my
go-to. Exactly.
I wasn't broke there actually. It was just I didn't want to spend a lot of money on a chick in case she sucked. But I think most of my dates are still pretty cheap because I want to feel the girl out before we start dropping a bill or two on just a random dinner.
Yeah, and there's lots that you can do, right? Where it's like, you can do like, picnics, you can go for like, hikes, you go for walks, like all that type of fun stuff. And you can get real creative with it. But also the other side of it is that the expectations typically are a lot lower because girls are more open and understanding. They like kind of know exactly what you're dealing with. And this is especially true like when you're kind of like in your 20s and then like below that. Like when you're, a guy like in your 30s, mid 30s, and you're broke, then it's a whole very different conversation. And definitely are some expectations there you can't get around. But when you're coming up as a guy in your 20s and you're kind of broke, right? There's a lot more leeway that you can have, and there's a lot more potential, right? That you can foster. So it's funny and entertaining for sure. And that the big challenges though when you're broke, right, is that obviously you don't have that much capital, right? So it limits a lot of your capability to be super spontaneous, as well as the level of types of dates in which you can go on, right? So, say, because I've been there, right? Where it's like, I've got like $70 left in my account. And then, I go and take a girl out for like a couple drinks, and it's like the bill with tip is $65. And so just have to put that down there with just like, okay.
The anxiety when you pull that card out, you're like, like there's a good chance it's not going to run.
I get paid 3 days later. I got like some food in my house. So like, yeah, I'll be
okay, that does
right?
go through your mind, doesn't it? Yeah.
That's why guys become a good cook. Like I do that for a lot of my dates. Girls like, oh, we're not going to go out. I'm like, I don't know you. You're just going to come to the house. I'm going to cook something good. And I like eating healthy, but they kind of know that's a part of who I am. And then if she sticks around, if she really, that means like she doesn't suck, then I have no problem taking her out to nice dinners. I love going to nice restaurants and nice bars with good views and nice ambiance and live music. I love that kind of stuff, but I have to be with the right person for that.
Yeah, I never really had any problem when I didn't have any money at all. Probably mostly because of, the age. It was somewhere between 19 and 25, basically, or 15 and 25 really is when I guess I started dating in a way. I think having money makes it a little bit more complicated because you think you have to make it more complicated than what you really do. And that's like where we talk about, kind of going back to your roots as far as being broke. It's like you don't have to be broke to not spend money. Like that's not a rule, right?
Yeah.
But people think that, oh, I have, call it 20 grand in my account, which I would think is a pretty high number for the average person. And oh, I can
Slush
go and
fund.
spend two or $300 on a chick on a first date. Why the fucking hell would you do that ever on a first date? Number one, maybe number two. And I used to be that person when I would, wintertime, I'd have a ton of cash in my bank account. I would go spend somewhere between 200 and 500 whenever I was dating. Lived in Kansas City, and I remember that specifically. Casino steakhouses with $100 bottles of wine and stuff for no reason. I mean, I wasn't hanging out with chicks that came from any version of affluence. I don't even look like I have any money at all. So, yeah. Anyways,
You're a sleeper economically.
I am a
To
sleeper.
use a cartoon,
If you look at me, I look super
Yeah.
broke. Most
Financial
of the
sleeper.
time. It's pretty funny.
Yeah, I mean, there's a big difference, right, between being economically savvy and then being like cheap, right? And so,
Yeah.
like, girls appreciate when you're smart with your money. They absolutely hate it when you're like just a cheap guy, because then it's like, all right, you're just like skipping out on a lot of stuff like unnecessarily because you're like holding on way too tight about stuff, right? And
Yeah.
I have an extreme example for that. I knew a girl for years, never dated her, but I think eventually I hooked up with her because she called me. She had a long-term boyfriend. She was so pissed, like, he's so cheap. I got to get away from here. He's driving me fucking nuts. Can I come stay at your house? I'm like, all right, it's on. And this guy was so bad that the nights that she spent the night with him, he would prorate the electricity bill and then charge her for that, like on a per day basis. I'm like, I used to be pretty cheap when I was younger too, but that's because I didn't have a lot of money, or I thought I didn't have a lot of money. I actually had a lot more than most of my peers, but because I worked from a young age. But yeah, I used to be real cheap too. I remember actually I had a radio show back when I was in high school. We used to do a segment about like cheap dates, and I do things like save the popcorn, like the unlimited popcorn bucket from the movie theater in the trunk of my car, and then walk in with me and like, hey, it's like a $12 tub of popcorn. I'm gonna get like 12 movies out of it, or even when you're way younger, doing like the baker's dozen, spending all day at the movie theater watching movies. I'm probably kind of dating myself here. Everything's on demand now, but so I thought I was cheap back when I was way, way, way younger. I'm definitely not anymore. I spend a lot of money on myself and those that I care about, but that takes the cake. Prorating the electricity on a per night basis.
That's
wow.
intense. I don't even know how to do that.
She actually married that guy.
Wow.
The truth is about that though, it was probably a good move. I mean, he's probably really. I mean, he either didn't make any money and just needed to stretch as much as he could, which is sad, or he made a ton of money and he was totally afraid of being broke, which isn't always a good thing, but it's a pretty good thing when it comes to being able to take care of people. So he's probably made the right choice in marrying the dude. Like he's probably got some money now that he's afraid to spend it, right?
A lot of those guys do. My grandparents are like that. I like that's kind of an older generation type mindset, and that's kind of how that's how I was raised too. Like if you don't have cash, you can't afford it, or clip out the coupons and watch the ads. And I'm starting to untrain some of those habits because I realize the more money I spend on myself in certain endeavors or pursuits in my life, the more it pays dividends down the road. But so that can be damaging if you take it to an extreme. But also a lot of people that are fiscally conservative, they usually end up doing pretty damn well too in the long run.
Yeah, without as much like direct, like grindy effort too. Like, I mean, my parents are millionaires and they just work their dicks off for like 40 years. I mean, that sounds that sounds terrible, like to us, because we want to obviously be rich before we're old. But like, yeah, I mean, for somebody to be worth $2 or $3 million and just work a regular job for 30 or 40 years and just be smart with their money, like it's possible if you do the right shit.
Yeah, because again, there's a lot of like money pits and a lot of traps out there, right? Like in LA, right, where you can easily go out and you can spend what some people make in a year in a night. Really,
$300 for a round of drinks. I remember when I came to visit you guys. I'm like, I got first round. It was like $300. I'm like, holy fuck, that's a whole weekend of going out every night in Mexico.
Well, to be fair, that was a couple rounds, but yeah, we definitely.
Okay, LA's a bucket without a bottom, that's for sure.
Yeah, so like there's places where it's like, oh yeah, you want to come into this club, great. Then we'll charge you $600 for a $40 bottle of Grey Goose, and you have to drink it at the bar. We don't even give you a table on a Monday night. Just standing there, like I was looking at my guy who's a VIP host of the venue, and I was like, dude, yeah, I'm with you. You're supposed to be like the plug on this, and like this is what they're kicking to me. It's like, no. But then you
Gross.
always get, someone that like doesn't care, right? And wants to throw whatever. So there could definitely be a lot of money traps out there. Now, again, like if you earn your money and you're doing well, all right, and it's a drop in the bucket, you can go ahead and blow it. Yeah, it's fun to do some crazy stuff like that and go like have a crazy night. I mean, had was it $1,100 sushi night with my mom a couple weeks back. And so it was fun to like, look back and say, yeah, we used to like have to scrape for, 29-cent cheeseburger night at McDonald's. And now we can, blow $1,100 on this amazing sushi. Like that's, because.
Yeah. And that's with your mom too. It's totally fucking
exactly.
different vibe. Absolutely. I would take my mom to $1 million dinner if I had it. Right.
Oh yeah. 100%. But that being said, we'll segue a little bit. I'll save the like how you can really have fun, like doing crazy stuff like that when you move up the economic spectrum. But definitely when you're more on the lower side of the spectrum, being smart with your money is definitely
dive bars are great. By the way, if somebody wants to take a girl to a bar, dive bars are fucking awesome. They usually have great food and they're the beer specials all day long. And if you're not hanging out with some high end chick that needs to go to a casino steakhouse, I guess. That can be a really good time, really fast. But
a lot of times they have really good live music too. When I lived in Houston, they had some funky live music bands like this 80s pop cover band, and then half the time we're like, are these guys gay? Or are they just really exaggerating certain parts of the lyrics because they're like a comedy pop cover rock band, but the guitarist could shred and the singer was amazing. And that was like a divey ass bar where, oh god, I miss Texas sometimes. Like $3 for a well drink, like $2 for a domestic draft beer.
Awesome.
So
you
those
get
kind of bars.
A drive-through daiquiri for like $4.50, 32 ounce.
Yeah, it's like know your market, right? So it's like because when I travel outside of LA, I keep forgetting like how much cheaper everywhere else is, right? And so I'm like, oh yeah. So growing up, like kind of like honed and refined a lot of the nifty economic tricks of the trade, right? In order to one, have a good time, but two, not necessarily blow or break the bank on, just for literally no reason whatsoever, because again, there's always tons of money traps out there and you can always spend more, right?
Yep. Know your audience.
Especially when you're broke and you're trying to level up, like, definitely understand that it's important to be smart with your money. But also understand that, especially the way girls are going to respond to you is that a lot of it comes down to how you carry yourself. Because if you carry yourself like a broke boy, then that's just super unattractive because it means you can't provide. It means that also you just don't have any type of sure footing on you. And you're going to get easily brushed over to the side by plenty of other dudes out there, right, that have capital and have cash, right? Fundamental rule of economics. Yeah, and the fundamental of economics is like no matter where you are, there's always somebody with more money, right? Unless you're in the room, maybe like in your Elon Musk, then all right, maybe you duke it out with some other Jeff Bezos or somebody. But for everybody else, right, it's like, hey, there's always somebody that's got more money. So how can you stand out in a competitive field like that? And oftentimes, a lot of rich guys are super boring, right? And that's why a lot of girls are like, oh, I wish I never. Cannot tell you how many times I hear from girls like, I wish I could date this guy's life, but not him. Because it's like, he's got a decent house. Sure. He's got everything covered.
That's
like
a very intelligent thing to think too, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
but then the guy brings up the table.
We've all met those kind of girls before. I know the three of us on this panel have like your sugar baby type younger girls where, okay, like it doesn't matter if she's like hooking up with a guy or not, but just in general, the type of girl where she's being financed by someone because she's too young and she's kind of dumb, but she has all this nice stuff.
Yeah, you see a 21-year-old girl with Christian Louboutin shoes and a YSL handbag, and I didn't know anything about this type of stuff until I started like really like getting more affluent.
You gotta pay attention because the shit's subtle. Yeah.
Then suddenly I was like, oh, YSL. I keep seeing that. I was like looking. I was like, this girl walking around with like a $15,000 handbag and she's 21. Like, okay, somebody is, and especially in LA, you'll see that a lot. Somebody's bankrolling.
Ask her what her daddy does.
You see it here too.
Ask her what her daddy does.
I'm a hostess at Twin Peaks and they make like $80 a week and then tips, but Mexicans don't tip that well. So anything over 10%, she gets to keep her own tips, but they usually tip less than 10% here. It's like, I know what you make. Like, I know these girls well enough. And then you see her like bringing new handbags and put them on the counter or new shoes. And you're like, okay, I was being bankrolled by someone, but the point being is that a lot of guys think that, okay, money is the end all be all, that like, okay, once I get money, then girls are going to love me for who I am and they're going to stick around, they're going to be faithful and loyal. No, a lot of times, I used to say this when I lived in California, where sometimes girls would confuse me when I started doing well for the first time in my life, independently outside of my family, where we'd be walking down the boardwalk, some, oh, buy me that. And I remember in front of a group of friends one time, I told the girl, I was like, I think you have me confused with the role I serve in your life. Like, I'm the guy you fuck. I'm not the guy who finances you. And her mouth kind of dropped, and then she just kind of smiled. She's like, okay, because she knows she can get some guy to buy her whatever that thing is, but you just have to hold your line. Like, no, I'm not that fucking guy. Like, I'm the guy that gives you fun, earth-shattering, mind-blowing experiences. Let the guy who bores the shit out of you buy the handbag. There's a reason you're with me right now and not with this guy right now. And I think a lot of guys get confused, like, oh, I have the money now, and where are the girls? It's not raining pussy on my dick. What the hell is going on? What's wrong with the universe? Whereas, like, we've all been broke college kids before, in that age, like early 20s, late teens, where you don't have a pot to piss in, but there's just girls all around you because you're fun, you're out doing stuff, you're in certain social cliques, and you have a lifestyle that affords you those options, not in the financial sense, but just in the contextual sense. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And that's a very good point, right? Because I've dated plenty of girls, right, that have sugar daddies that just, buy them a whole bunch of stuff and, like,
they detest them too. Dinners. It's so funny.
And then it's like, yeah, I don't sleep with him, but we just hang out. We go to like little dates. He buys me dinner. He buys me this and that. And it's like, all right, cool. Well, he can pay for it.
You're effectively an escort without pussy.
He can pay. I can have play. That's totally fine with me. But a key,
they want the affection a lot of times.
Yeah, but a key element
that
you outlined there, right, is that it's like, about that timing, right? Now, if it's a girl you've been seeing for, 9 months, right? You have a really strong connection, she's your girlfriend or whatnot, you really like her, you want to be spontaneous and buy her something really nice. Yeah, by all means, go do that, right?
Absolutely.
We're not, advocating on the panel, like, oh, if you do anything nice for a girl, you're a simp, right? It's like, no, like, but again, a lot of it comes down to the way in which, right, it goes about. Right? If a girl mentions, oh, this is something nice, I hope maybe someday, I would like to have this. And a couple months later, you wind up buying it for him. Okay, great, right? But she's just like, right off the bat, oh, go take me here and buy me this. It's like, okay, you're getting a little bit confused here, right? Like,
well, a good example, I always say that girls like the experiences. So if you can separate the dollar amount attached to that and just provide really good experiences that you can both enjoy mutually, then for me, those are the best dates. Like this last weekend, the San Diego Padres and San Francisco Giants were down here in Mexico City. So I'm like, all right, like, I don't live in California anymore. I want to see a professional ball game. Yeah, I texted Steve. I'm like, what? No one talked about this, but there's gonna be like 12 home runs, because when I played ball down here, when you come to Mexico City, it is so high in altitude that you'll get under the ball, you pop it up, you're just like, fuck, oh man, I didn't get a full piece of that pitch, and then it goes over the fence and the crowd starts cheering. You're like, oh, I hit a home run. It was all day of that. It was so much fun. But I took a girl who indicated she enjoyed baseball. Like, okay, well, if you like baseball, she's from a northern state, Mexico, where baseball is more popular, where they're really into it. It's like, all right, we'll go to a baseball game. And then the next night went to a concert. This is a girl I had taken to concerts before, and she's a really good concert buddy. We have a really good time. We enjoy concerts the same way. Let's just say that, in terms of like things we do before the concert to make the music more enjoyable. The sunglasses wearing crowd, if you guys understand that. Yeah. So for me, but both of these events were considerably more expensive than they were in the US, because Mexico gets like 2 MLB games this whole year. So everybody went. It was a small stadium. So tickets were considerably pricier than when I used to go all the damn time when I lived in San Diego, but it was the experience. I'm like, all right, I want to have this experience with someone who will also enjoy this experience. The concert, same thing. I like doing these types of concerts for this genre of music a very certain way, and this girl is in line with that. So we will have a shared experience together. She didn't give a fuck about how much the tickets cost. She knew that if she goes with me and I introduce her into these environments or these elements and we share that experience together, she's going to have a fantastic time. And that's kind of the way I look at it. So like I don't mind ponying up money for experiences, but it has to be with the right chick.
And the other thing to, especially for you guys out there to understand, right, is you got to put yourself in the girl's perspective, right? Especially as you start leveling up, because it's like, I've got some money now. It's like, well, great. If you're, a girl that's been, 24 and is, done some modeling or this, that, or the other, and is like really attractive. Guess what? Since you've been 18, every guy you've pretty much been with has had some money, because guess what? What do guys with a lot of money like? They like really pretty girls, and so they can make things a lot more accessible and a lot easier. And girls often want to date older. A lot of guys often want to date younger. But you have to understand the field that you're navigating is that, okay, in her perspective, oh, guys just have money, right?
Yeah.
Like ask a girl what the average salary a guy is making in a year.
You think it's like $1 million? It's hilarious.
Yeah, normally they think it's
stupid.
Somewhere, between,
$100,000.
100,000 to like 500,000 is usually the average answer that I get back, because that's what they think the average guy out there makes. It's like
the average now, like 50 for a full family, or with
56,
inflation, is that
I think it's something like that. It's like 57, 56.
56,000 roughly. That's the.
I think that's actually the average household income. I'm not even sure about the average.
It's household
person.
income.
Yeah,
because I remember when I came out of college, my starting salary was $52,000 a year, and I was a dumb kid right out of college. I thought I deserved $100,000. Like, what the fuck did I know?
If you were dumb, what was I? Holy fuck!
But coming out of college, I learned very quickly that I was making more money than a lot of my friends' parents put together. I'm like, oh my god, like how did they raise you? Because life gets expensive pretty quickly, even if you do have a good income.
Yeah,
well, I mean, dude, a lot of these people are boring as fuck too. Like, or a lot of these people lead boring lives. They may not be boring people necessarily, but like there are states in the United States where the average income is like 38 grand. Like it's fucking crazy. And there's cities
going to Applebee's for a date is a big deal. That's like anniversary
$75. Are you kidding me? That's 1/20th of our total for the month a net, right? That's whoa. People don't realize that, like even around here, the
$20 unlimited app night. If you remember that story from San Diego. Oh, dude, we closed that restaurant down.
$130 worth of appetizers in 3 hours. Holding records around this place.
But yeah, so it's important for guys to like understand, like that's kind of the sphere that they're going in, right? So again, understand that it's a tool and an amplifier, but it's not the necessarily end all be all. And guys get too focused on that. They think one thing is always going to be like the key. Oh, I got a fast sports car. Great. It's like, well, okay, cool. But this one girl, every guy she's dated from the last 6 years, they all have Lamborghinis. Okay, cool. What makes you different, right? So there's never one like end all be all thing. It's a formula and an equation. And as your money goes up, you adjust certain things in that formula and in that equation to either maximize more of what you're doing or face the different challenges. So once you stop being broke and start getting kind of like that good sort of kind of working class level, then the expectations shift, right? Especially with the girls that you're dealing with and you're interacting with. It's like, okay, you're working, you got a good job, you're not, a broke college student anymore. So, there's certain expectations where it's like, oh, we probably should be able to at least go out for like drinks, possibly dinner and drinks, and he could be able to
$50 to $100 basically.
No sweat,
and not have to look at the bank account or like get that brow sweat anxiety when they ask for your card. You're like, oh no. Or I remember when I lived in California, I used to always think too, again, falling into like a younger guy way of thinking that, well, I have to have a nice car to impress these chicks. But I lived in areas that were close to everything. So like, again, I always spend more to live in a really nice area because I don't like to be stuck in traffic or drive around, especially if you're going out and doing drinks or you just want to keep it chill. Or if you want the girls to come straight to the house, it pays to live in a nice area. But I remember there were girls that initially a previous version of me would have thought they were gold diggers. I'm like, God, this girl, like, because you start to level up, like, oh God, this girl's really hot. She's really into me. And I see the designer shoes and the handbags and the expensive jewelry, and where the hell is she getting this from? Like, oh no, I remember years ago I bought a Porsche Boxster Type S, and I remember thinking, oh, it's not a 911, so girls are going to judge me. Well, half the time, yeah, they didn't even give a fuck. They liked driving down the beach with a convertible and their fucking blonde hair blowing in the wind. Or I'd see girls and we'd do like bike ride dates or park dates or beach dates, or we'd go to the comedy club. When I lived in downtown San Diego, we'd go to the American Comedy Club all the damn time. And then I remember one girl I was dating for a while. She was kind of, I considered at the time like a higher tier type girl. The first time she got in my car, it was like the sixth time I seen her, and she's like, oh, I didn't know I had a convertible. That's cool. It's just nonchalant about it. I'm like, oh, this girl actually likes me. She's into me. She could give a fuck less about the car I drive.
Yeah. And I can give, and as the car guy, I can give you the full range on like cars that girls really like and the cars that guys think girls really like. And it's like,
and they have nothing to do with what nice cars actually are. Like,
actually, let's take a minute
go
or two.
Ahead, go ahead.
I'm actually curious.
I'm a truck guy, so do your thing,
and
man.
Then after that spiel, guys, we'll go through the comments right after Josh's little spiel. So, ask any questions or leave any comments, and we'll get to them here.
Yeah. So typically guys tend to think, right, that it's like, okay, girls, they like the Ferraris, the Lambos, oftentimes they think like the Rolls Royce, Bentleys, the really nice, really expensive, or like the super fast, like exotic cars, which to be fair, those can definitely work and they can definitely be very good attention grabbers. You can definitely have a lot of fun. But typically the cars girls absolutely love are a big SUV, like a Range Rover, something like that. And if you want to stay on the high end, it's Range Rover. But again, even like a Tahoe, anything like that, like SUVs, typically what girls go for.
If you're in the country, yeah, girls go for the truck guys.
Yeah, in the cities, Rolls Royce for sure, because whoever invented the Starlight roof was a genius. So yeah, the Rolls Royce, yes.
I never would have thought that would have been a thing.
Yeah, 100%. Girls love and flock to the Rolls Royce like more than they do to the other cars. That or like a nice Mercedes, especially like more like the S class, kind of the bigger one. But the S or E class, those are typically like the ones girls really love, especially if it's in black. Because they're big, they're comfortable, nice, got the ambient lights in there, so it's a more relaxing environment. And then the other surprise or shocker is like a nice Lexus. Like that's a Lexus can outpull like a lot of other cars because again, like especially with the supercars, they're like loud, they're noisy, they're sometimes a little bit too fast.
Not that comfortable. Yeah, girls sometimes you'll scare the shit out of girls when you get going fast and more sportier cars or exotic cars.
A bunch of stuff, right? So
mid-range, like a mid-range luxury, and then like a pickup, and then like a SUV / kind of in that range or in that order, you would say.
Yeah, pretty much. So it's typically, or the one that trumps them all is kind of the G-Wagon because the G-Wagon is kind of like the handbag of cars. Like it's slightly overpriced. It's definitely more of a fashion accessory than a practical thing, and usually just a bunch of housewives have them. So it's like, yeah, the G-Wagon is definitely one of those cars that girls really like.
Looking. Just not good looking cars.
Yeah.
It's like a box that's metal, so hey, drive a landmine, it's great. But yeah,
like
so
an
my
$800
experience.
oil change.
Here's another tip, guys. Regardless what your car situation is like at the moment, keep your car clean. Keep it really nice and clean and smelling good, and not fry stains and shit all over the floor or cigarette burns in the seats. Don't do any of that, like crumbs in the center divider, or if you like spill a soda and you have coins and they start turning green from like the copper on the pennies.
The acid.
Don't have any of that shit in your car. Keep your car clean.
Who has coins?
Yeah.
Who has coins anymore?
Usually the car I'll take girls out in at first is I have a BMW at an M3, but it's like a 21-year-old M3. Which, I mean, it still looks great, and it looks like it's brand new. So,
and they like it, right? Because my Porsche was the same way. I bought like a 20-year-old Porsche. I'm like, well, it's not this year. And I thought that girls in California really cared, is it brand new? Because that's what you hear from other content creators. They don't give a fuck. They're like, let's put the top down and drive down the beach. Like, oh, hell yeah, that's super fun.
The only time it gets kind of in dicey or in trouble is when, like, they were like, oh, like, can we put on the CarPlay? I'm like, oh, this car was invented long before the iPhone. So that's the only, like, little caveat in there.
Yeah, let me put my little cassette to cell phone adapter.
I'm going to fucking aux port the shit out of this.
Right? So that's, like, the only caveat in there. But what's also funny about it is because it's kind of a collector's car, oftentimes when I'm driving out, a bunch of guys will, like, pull over at lights and be, hey, man, like, nice car, love your car, like this. And girls are like, I don't get it. Like, what's the deal? It's just like it's a BMW. I don't know. I'm like, oh, it's a car guy thing. So they like.
You took me for a joyride in that car. It's quite fun when you're hugging those corners going up and down the coast. Yeah, it was a fun drive home that one night.
It's quite fun, but yeah, in reality, if something comfortable with CarPlay, then you'll be okay. So yeah, when it comes to your car, guys, keep it clean, keep it nice. And yeah, don't have to sweat it if you don't have the latest, the greatest, or if you don't have like the most expensive thing in the world. That's totally fine. But if you are wondering for a guide on like, hey, I'm thinking about what kind of car, I should get if I'm a young, successful guy, and I'm like thinking about, something that may have appeal to the ladies, then yeah, I definitely have a very distinct list for that at various.
It definitely depends on where you live too, for sure. I mean, it definitely depends on where you live because like, Florida would probably be a sports car or an SUV, like just a normal, because not most people don't have that much money. They're all paying all their money into rent. Or where I live, diesel pickups are like, whoa, holy shit, that's $100,000 truck. Most people can't afford those unless they have money.
Yeah, and keep it nice, keep it clean, and you'll be okay.
Absolutely.
a good line for that one. Like, hey, do you have the car play? Like, no, let's enjoy the music of the engine.
I always just say I am the DJ and I've got my set playlist. That's what I always say.
Yeah, dude, I don't let girls play DJ at my house because they'll do annoying shit like put on a song on YouTube and then every 3 minutes want to change it. And I tell them, no, let's just put on a playlist or a good mix from like a good set of a DJ that we both enjoy and let it play through. I don't want to play fucking DJ all night.
Yeah.
All right, guys, let's get to some of these comments, clear them out, and we shall keep this going. Yeah, the car topic is a good one. We could do a full dedicated stream on that one.
Oh, yeah.
Mr. D'Angelo Williams, money is important in the sense that it shows who a man is in terms of his ambition, value, and the respect he commands from society. Being broke limits a man from doing anything he wants.
100%.
I do agree with that statement. Yeah, money buys freedom. I've definitely noticed that.
And again, just because you're broke doesn't mean you should, strive to be there or stay there, right? You should, as a guy, always be striving to push forward and get to new boundaries. But, for those of you that are watching the stream and happen to be in there, then hopefully we've got some, good tips and advice for you in here and a couple of gems, because we all started somewhere. And I remember the poorest I've ever been was negative $1,700 in my bank account. So I needed $1,700 to be broke. That was a tough situation.
Isn't that a fun feeling?
Broke isn't forever either. So, if you are broke, dude, it is what it is. Like we've all gone through it or go through it at our own respective levels. And some people are going to feel broke with, $100 in their bank account. Some people are going to feel broke with $100,000 in their bank account. It's all perspective and what you're trying to get out of life too. If you're more of like a contract worker who makes $90,000, maybe you don't feel broke when you have $5,000 or $10,000 in your bank account. That's good. It's like he was saying, it's just moving forward. Just move forward every day. It doesn't have to be real complicated.
And you will adjust because, to that point right now, I remember the first time I made $100,000. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so much money. And now, like, if I make $100,000, I'm like, oh my God, I'm so poor.
I feel like that now. I'm 100% independent. So I've matched my previous corporate salary, which was a very good salary. But I'm like, I feel like such a piece of shit because I'm not making $1 million a year yet.
Maybe you ain't calling another man daddy. So there's that.
No, I am 100% free. I report to me, myself, and I. Saul Gray. I enjoy these free dates of walks and picnics, stuff like that. Yeah, I'm a big sucker for nature too. So again, a lot of times I'll create experiences to know if the girl really vibes with who I am to see if we're actually compatible. So if a girl, for example, if I pitch a San Diego beach sunset with the serenade and the girl's like, oh no, I want to go somewhere expensive, then who does not like a sunset in San Diego? There is something fundamentally wrong with you as a human being.
Right.
From my perspective, we are not compatible. We're not going to have a good time. I am not interested in meeting you. So kind of approach it from that. Don't be a dick about it, obviously. But and the thing is, I never had that come up. They're like, oh hell yeah, it sounds good. It's low stress. It's low expectations. Hey, what should I wear? Like, just bring some flip flops and. It gets kind of chilly at night when the sun starts going down. Josh, you live in LA. The minute that sun goes down over the horizon, it gets cold really fast on the beach.
Hits,
so, but girls dig that.
Yeah, and things like museums too. There's also the very fantastic, little fun dates because again, you can go sample art or whatever type of museum you're going to, right? And there's always something you can poke fun of or something that you can bond with. So those are always really great resources. And now they've got a lot more kind of social media savvy museums set up. Like there's museums of illusions, which are really awesome, where you can really take some awesome pictures.
They do those here. Those are cool.
And those are a lot of fun.
Really cool.
Yeah. And again, not terribly expensive at all. So, Eventbrite is a good site, which usually will have like events broken out by a region. It'll have events that are free, events that like cost like low amounts of money, and some more expensive ones. But it's good just to give you either ideas or just let you know like what's going on, so that way you can look like you're in the know. Where it's like, hey, I'm in my small local town, but there's actually a Brazilian music festival that's happening this day. Let's go check that out. It could be cool.
That kind of goes to frame too. Like guys have something already planned. So I know if there's something coming up I want to do, I'm already going to do it, whether I have a +1 or not. The question comes down to, okay, who is going to be the best +1, or who is going to enjoy this experience with me to have that seat in my life for that weekend, for that night, for that day or date or whatever. But it's already something I definitely want to go to. All right, got some more questions here. In my opinion, money can matter when money is used in dating to kind of show off and is not sustainable, consistent going forward. Let's see. Agree. Dive bars can be a blast. The vibe is different too. Yeah, I like dive bars. And I'm noticing kind of a theme when we're giving some of these suggestions. It's really just low pressure, easy, just fun, relaxed environments. And again, there doesn't necessarily have to be a high price point attached to that. Ronnie, a member of the top 10% group, guys. I will plug that here at the end if you stick around. Ronnie, good evening, gentlemen. Don't you guys think that when men are successful, that confidence of winning transfers to dating as well?
Not always, because I have a lot of very successful guys that have to pay me a lot of money to get their swag up.
I've got clients.
It's completely different language. Yeah, I was going to say, I think it's completely different languages. Like, I mean, you can be good. You can definitely be good at one and not at the other. That's for sure. I know a lot of guys who are great with women or do not earn a fucking dime, and then your guys' clients.
Yeah, I'm sure everyone watching knows those guys because it pisses a lot of guys off. Like, oh, this guy's a loser. Why does he get all the chicks? I'm like, well, he's not doing anything. He has time to go get all the chicks.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. He's got active time to focus on it.
Yeah, or he sells coke and weed out of his dorm room. So, you kind of have that angle too.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Yeah. It's the, hey, how do you know I trap, man? And it's like, well, there's signs, bro. There's signs.
Yeah, exactly. Phil, hey, Phil, how you doing? When you talk about it's not the money, but the experience, is this principle in that event must engage the emotions. This is where mystery and setting the frame begins. Yeah, it's not the money, but the experience. Is this a principle in that the event must engage the emotions? Oh, okay, yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah, it engages the senses. The main 5 senses, and then for those of you who like more of the mystical stuff or the woo-woo stuff or hallucinogenic type stuff, there's other dimensions too that you can also engage. That depends on the girl you're with. Yeah, I agree. That's kind of where frame setting begins. Yeah, Josh, go ahead.
Girls will pick up on it too, right? They'll know what type of guys are they're just like, oh, I'll throw money at her type thing versus the guy that actually like wants to engage her, right? And so the throw money at her type guy only goes so far and works for so long, and they'll stay with those guys out of convenience, but they'll still like secretly loathe them and potentially plot their murders. So, you want to make sure that you're coming from a place of, again, genuine authenticity and getting that genuine engagement and that bonding experience with that person. Because again, like you'll be surprised. You start talking to a lot of girls, you'll find like, yeah, I'm out with this guy and he's cool, but I said like I had, was feeling bad or sad, and he just, went and tried to buy me something, but he didn't listen to what I was like really saying and venting about, right? And so that's where a lot of guys fall into that trap, right? Where they're constantly just trying to spend money and throw money at the situation without actually engaging the emotional side of the equation. And that's where there's a huge, huge disconnect.
Yeah. All right. A couple more comments. Hello. Hey, how's it going? Money does matter. Yes. How much were the tickets to Rufus? So here in Mexico, I think they're cheaper for general admission. I got VIP. I believe they're like 100 or 120 each face value. And then with all like the bullshit processing fees and delivery fees and all that, I think I spent 5,200 Mexican pesos, which I think when I checked my bank statement last, it translated to like $285 or something like that. So, but I like live music. So when I go to live music, I want to get a good spot. I want to be comfortable. I want to be well taken care of. I'm not there. God, we did have a group of girls next to us. They're super hot too, but they're fucking annoying the whole time. Selfies and this and yelling, hey, hey. Bitch, shut the fuck up. I am here to watch a band live. Do not destroy my experience. So there's certain things. Again, I'm pretty frugal when it comes to my life, or in the sense that I have more of a minimalist mindset. But I invest in experiences, not things, in experiences with the right people. So for things like that, music festivals, it's VIP. Nightclubs, it's usually VIP or bottle service. Rufus, it was also VIP. So if any, and I know a couple of girls I know are listening to this down here. So if you understand me in English and you're thinking that's a lot, yeah, it's a lot of money down here in Mexico. But for me, it's not bad for a VIP experience. And then flight facilities is there too, and I really like flight facilities.
Okay, yeah,
I'm a fan of female vocals.
They have some really good songs. Yeah.
All right. Hey, Jaron, found out about you through Rich. Well, hey, nice to have you, Charlie. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. All right, guys. Well, that clears out the comments. If you have any more, feel free to leave them in the chat, and then we can go ahead and keep on going. So in the pre-show, we touched upon a couple other topics. I'm trying to remember what the other one was. We were talking about that, money doesn't necessarily – oh, you know what? We started with money doesn't necessarily matter. It's more experiences. But then you also mentioned that a lot of times, I think, Josh, you brought this up, that a lot of times girls don't really know what a lot of money looks like. Like a lot of average girls don't know the difference between if you make $100,000 a year, $1 million a year, or $10 million a year.
Yeah, like I would say probably like a good, I don't know, 90% of girls out there don't know that they can't tell the difference between a guy that makes about $120,000 a year to a guy that makes about $2 million a year, in that range. Because for the most part, lifestyle things don't really change all that much between those brackets. Maybe, if you're making two, then every trip you take, every flight is always first class, outside of that. And then you buy all the really stupid stuff that you really want. But, outside of that, it pretty much stays relatively the same. Then there's that 10% that really know like what real money and like real wealth is. And so that's a whole, if you guys are going for that, that's a whole different conversation, because then it's like, okay, you really have to pay to play, right? Where it's like, hey, these girls are very, very used to a certain level of accommodation, and to not be able to provide that. And a perfect example of that was, this was a few years ago. I was at this club and I met this like drop dead gorgeous Russian girl. And she was like, turns out she was some model. She had a bunch of magazine covers, runway stuff, all this other stuff. Great. We had a fantastic time, fantastic kisser. Awesome. I was like, I'm super jazzed. It's like, all right, cool. Like, my swag is on point, right? So hit her up, like, go hang out with her once, and then try to hang out with her again, and just notice that she's like not that responsive. So finally, after like about 3 weeks of her just kind of like not being responsive, her Instagram feed just pops up. And so there's this other guy, and then it turns out this guy actually has a private jet, is like flying her around all over the place. And so it's one of those situations where it's like, okay, like I can't be mad, because hey, if I'm a super hot 22-year-old model that's got magazine covers and all this, that, or the other, and I have two guys that I kind of like, but one of them has a jet and the other one doesn't, the guy with the jet is gonna win out, right? Where you can just up and like fly her to the Maldives just for the weekend, just because he feels like it, right? Like that's a different level of competition. And so when you're dealing with girls that are in sort of that stratosphere, that's where you really have to like pay to play. You can maybe get like have some fun for like a night or two, right? But you have to understand where you stand on the competitive totem pole and what the expectations and requirements are going to be to operate within that realm. So there is definitely
what's the number? What's the number for that? Like once you think 2 million's enough to, charter a PJ once every couple of months to go do your trips, or you think that 5, like what's the number that gets you into that category?
Number that usually gets you into that category is like at least 5 in the bank, with probably 1 to 2 coming in consistently a year. Now there's obviously those that have a lot more, but most of the folks that I've dealt with,
that's entry level baller.
Yeah, that's entry level baller. Once you get to the guy that's like 20 mil, then that's 20 mil is the entry level to like true baller that can do like pretty much whatever they want. So, and I've hung out with quite a few of those guys.
The lower ceiling than I thought. Yeah.
Here's a question for you. How many of those guys actually have game, though? Because I mentioned earlier, there's been girls that have come into my life, and when I was in college, I was dating a Brazilian girl. This was long before social media or smartphones or anything, and I really liked this Brazilian girl. And all the guys on campus did, like, oh man, like she was the chick, she was mine. And then all of a sudden, same thing, got less responsive. I'm like, what the hell's going on? And then eventually, again, before social media, I found out through a friend, she's like, oh, she's dating so and so, like a famous or a professional soccer player. I'm like, okay, yeah, I can't compete with that. Or there's a girl's dating here a few months ago. Yeah, so like a lower tier entry level like telenovela actress, and then eventually same thing, kind of went cold, less responsive, dating like some goofy looking guy. I'm like, who the fuck's this guy? He's got like 2.5 million followers. Oh, he's like a famous comedian here. Like, okay, well, can't really compete with that. But the reason I asked, do these guys have game? Because inevitably at some point these girls reach back out because they want other things that you offer that maybe the guy with the money cannot offer, if you catch my gist.
Yeah, and I would say
they're using us for our bodies.
I would definitely say that.
Yeah, right.
In my experience, about half of those guys have game, the other don't, because of what's required to get there. Usually you have to develop some type of game in order to like get to that status or get to that level. And a lot of the guys at that level, right? Fame is the ultimate game. So a lot of them have some level of fame or affluence. A lot of athletes, a lot of musicians, a lot of folks that are like highly successful and very renowned in either their fields or in somewhat the public sphere. So you have that element into the game as well. But in my experience, yeah, about half of the folks at that like true baller status level have game, and the other half don't. So it's really interesting, that shift.
All right, I've got a couple more questions. Mexico's third world. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is there any pretty girls there? I'd say Mexico's more second world. It's like an emerging market economy. So and the wealth is really consolidated here too. So I live in a nice neighborhood. When I have buddies come down, like, should I be worried? I'm like, dude, not in this neighborhood. Like, if you think you're rich in the U.S., you're coming into like 500 years of generational wealth where I live. Yeah, no one's gonna fucking worry about you. So, but if you go to like the middle of nowhere in some less incorporated, let's say, type town, there are areas like in the south of the country where they're really underdeveloped, then yeah. So it really depends on where you go. Let's see.
There are a lot of
Renegade is speaking the truth. Yeah, there's a lot of, it's a very diverse country too. So like even guys, I know that even if you like Asiatic looking girls, well, there's a lot of indigenous girls here that have those features and they're still like really feminine and petite. And then guys that like more of kind of the Mediterranean and exotic look, you got plenty of those girls, then everything in between. So there's a lot of diversity here, and they're very pretty and they're quite feminine. They take care of themselves, which is one of my girls listening. She asked me that earlier, like, why do all the guys like Latinas? Is it because we're hot? I'm like, well, that, and it's because you're feminine too. You're sweet. Money's important in Dubai. You'll find sublime Russian girls. I've seen them. I was blown away. Oh, dude, I bet Dubai's like a playboy.
Well, it's like I was at this was about like 7 years ago. I was up in there's this big car show, and there's all in California, and like all the major manufacturers and everybody comes out. But we're at the Rolls Royce party, and so you can imagine the amount of money that was there in this room, where you got like the CEO of Rolls Royce in there with like all their like top 100 clients. And so my best friend, like, he looks at me and he goes, like, he's looking at some of the girls in there, and he's just like, I never understood how a man could pay for sex until I saw this level of hotness. And I was like, yeah, I could definitely see how someone would be like, okay, whatever it takes. Because there are definitely some girls out there where you just like, you see them and instinctively you are just like flabbergasted.
Yeah, I've seen those ones. I'd say Mexico in that sense is probably not a hot spot for that. It's kind of like a starting point in the expat international community. There is a hierarchy. So like the guys that really get it going, they'll go to other places, Dubai being one of them.
Yeah, you have to know your market too, right?
Yeah, fire podcast today. Yeah, dude, like all the stunners here, you'll and I hang out these crowds, so I'll see these girls, but you'll see them eventually. They'll end up in places like Dubai or France or London or like not Morocco, Monaco or places like that, like more international, global type hotspots.
Yeah, because you're millionaire and say like out in Akron, Ohio, which is great. Then you come to LA, and then it's like, all right, well, you're just kind of like an average tier guy. And then you go to like Dubai, and then you're just like, dude, you're on the poverty line here, right? So like understanding your
I remember that
your economic level.
I remember that in the small town I grew up in, where people are like, oh, that family's rich. Like, oh, he's the CEO of small local company, makes $300,000 a year. So I grew up with that mindset. And then I went to California. I'm like, no, that's not shit here. And then I did about that last year. I'm like, wait, like I made almost as much last year. I'm just a normal dude as like someone that I considered rich growing up. Granted,
and then you go to Thailand and you're like a god, and it's like, oh, all right, well,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you can go spend $2,500 a month and get a penthouse flat in the nicest building in town. Yeah.
Oh, on top of a waterfall. Like I saw that.
Yeah.
He's like, dude, this is a place on top of a waterfall.
Cleaner made
for less than what you're paying for your place in LA. And I was just like, what the? I was like, okay, well.
It's not a bad idea. I'm just saying. It's not a bad idea.
It actually doesn't sound bad. Yeah, I should probably go to a lesser developed country after this. I'm off the dating apps and I'm using TikTok for dating right now. Okay, I've never thought about using TikTok as dating, but I've always mentioned that any app can be a dating app. Like I've met chicks on Airbnb, both as a host and as a traveler, and things have gone down. Let's just say that. So it's the way of the future. I just had 11K followers on TikTok. Yeah, and Ali, I know you've been talking to me offline. I definitely wouldn't mind talking about kind of your strategy there, because I've got a digital marketing course I'm going to launch, and I'm going to do marketing right this time, not hit topics that actually throttle my channel or social media accounts. So I'll talk to you about that. I'm getting my workflows down for that, and I'll do a hard launch here probably by the end of the month is my goal. Never spend more than $20 on a first date. Yeah, I don't really have hard or steadfast rules like that, but usually first dates are usually quite a bit cheaper because you're just kind of trying to feel them out.
Yeah, and it depends on where you are too, right? Because me, an average first date is like somewhere around like 50 to 80 bucks, somewhere around there. If it's like
Yeah, I
$100,
was
I'm like,
gonna say.
huh. But it's usually like, a couple drinks, right? Maybe like an appetizer or something in there. And then it's like, okay, we suss out like how much, whatnot. And again, sometimes you can, break your own rules, right? Where it's like, oh, I'm really digging and vibing this chick. Yeah, okay, cool. It'll be like a $400 night. Like, who cares, right? And so
Yeah.
it's always that ebb and flow in how you vibe with a girl. Because if you think about, all right, it has to be, I can't go over this threshold, like, enjoy the moment, enjoy your time, right? Again, it's only money, guys. We can make more tomorrow. So don't lose sight of the fact that, if you, depending on your market, where you're at, where the prices of things are, like if you try to do a $20 date in Los Angeles, that's like, it's just going to cover the parking. So it's like,
Yeah,
you got to,
no shit.
You do a $20 date here, you can almost get a full dinner for that. So for
Yeah.
two people.
yeah. So
I
it depends. Like if I'm in San Antonio, Texas, yeah, great. $20.
But I mean,
Yeah.
but like the overall, the roundabout quality, LA versus middle of nowhere, Kansas is like, it's not even, I mean, realistically, not even comparable.
Yeah. Well, because all the lovely ladies from Kansas, all
All
come
the,
over
all
here.
the,
Oh yeah.
all the khaki mom pants will just kill you. All the yoga pants running around this joint. Oh man,
They-
if you're
they
into
love-
yoga pants, this is the place.
They love the pig vaccinators and hog farmers out there, right?
Oh yeah, there's no hogs here actually. It's all wheat farmers. That's why I said.
Oh,
diesel
that's right.
trucks.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Wheat
like
farmers. Anybody
literally
got a
middle of
tractor?
America.
They're getting it right.
Good
They
for them.
the way here's a question for you, Steve. The way girls in middle America are, is it like how chicks in LA are? Like I mentioned, like, okay, well, you have a Porsche, but it's not this year, or it's not the 911, or it's not the Carrera 4S, or it's not. Are they like that with tractors? Like they can see a combine and they're like,
I
"Ooh,
would imagine
what's going on?"
I'm dating a girl who's not even remotely close to agriculture, and hilariously enough, it is so the percentage of people in that space is so small, and you're not really around them because I mean you're talking about a million people, right? So like they're just like when you think normal average white people, that's where I live. Normal average white people go to the gas station. People are literally like, well, I dress in basketball shorts and a sweater. Nobody would think anything of it. If I did that shit in LA, they'd be like, who is this poor guy? Right? San Diego, same thing. It's
I know.
just so fucking normal that it can be boring and vanilla and whitewashed or washed out or however you want to call it. But I mean, it's just because there's nothing to do. I mean, there's nothing to do here.
LA's gotten a little bit weird about that, which so that's a funny thing. Like the fashion sense and the economics, like that's definitely, I'd say, much more East Coast. Because like here in the West Coast, right, you'll go out to a spot and you'll like go to some, like nice place or like some nice club and you see a guy like, at a table in a nice restaurant and he's just wearing like a hoodie, like a sweatpants, some sneakers or like basketball shorts. You're like, who's that guy? It's like, oh, he's so-and-so and he just dropped like $50,000 for this one table tonight. And so it's like in California, it's weird with our fashion and economics. It's like you got to kind of throw that out the window because it's like you go outside and you're like, who's that homeless dude up front? Like, oh, him, he owns the building. Like,
yeah,
it's really weird.
Nice.
There's
but East
bars
Coast, yeah,
the
East
bar
Coast,
we
they
went
don't
to
put
in
up with it
San
at all.
Diego's like that. I know the owner. When I first met him, I'm like, hey, my buddy knew the owner and introduced me to him. I was like, hey, where is this guy? Like some guy in like the old Nike like dad shoes from the 90s, like the fucking striped socks, like shorts that didn't match. His shirt was tucked in. He had like a purple JanSport backpack. I'm like, who's this guy? Why is he joining? He's like, dude, shut up, it's the owner. I'm like, hey, what's up?
Yeah, so like I show up in there like in a blazer and a Henley like this, right? And people are like, "Oh, you must work here." I'm like, "No, I party here," but because they're like not used to people like throwing on like nicer clothing. But East Coast is very different, right? East Coast is definitely much more. People get like more formal, get a little bit more dressy,
like the New York vibe, like where people
very,
are actually like wearing
New York vibe.
where they just take their tie off after work to go out.
Yeah, so
Like
California,
kind of
you get a little mix of that. Like some places, you definitely get like the dressy and the classy, but for a lot of parts, it's definitely a lot more like casual. So I found what I like to call like a casual chic balance, right? Where it's like, all right, it looks nice, but it's like casual. It's not fully formal because I used to like wear like rock 3-piece suits a lot, which was great.
Yeah.
And then, one is just a lot of effort to get on and going, but then two is also like, what? It's like girls were actually responding to me a lot better when I was like dressing down a little bit more.
V-neck. I've noticed that too with my style. Like I'll dress up when I went to Miami, wore like I went out full Miami Vice wearing like the white linen suits and pink fitted linen shirts and, spent some money on my Miami wardrobe and then realized that a lot of times I would just go out in like shorts and this t-shirt that I'm wearing. it doesn't really make a difference. One thing I wanted to mention too, in a lot of the US major cities or even global major cities, there's a lot of diversity also. So for example, even in LA, I do pretty well there too, because I like kind of like your hippie granola chicks, or like your artsy fartsy museum girls, or your musician girls, maybe sometimes even like your punk rock chicks, or your girls that are again down for a first date with a beach sunset. That's a different type of girl. Or when I get in like really good shape physically, then I'll date more like fitness type models or wannabe models, or and you know what, a lot of really fit hot girls, they don't even really care about it. They're just really into their physical health. So these major US and global cities, you kind of run the gamut. Last time I was in New York, okay, yeah, maybe the guys I'm hanging out with, they were like finance bros is what we call them. So I was out with a bunch of finance bros. Those guys weren't pulling at all, and I was getting laid, but I was going after foreign chicks. So like met a really hot Turkish chick, and then met a really hot German chick, and they just wanted to, hey, I'm in New York and I'm here for a conference and I've got a couple days free. I extended the trip over the weekend. Want to hang out? Hell yeah, let's do it. And then you hit it off, and you eventually hook up. So really depends on kind of what specific social scene you're inserting yourself into.
Yeah. And that's also very helpful. You gotta kind of know your target audience, right? So if you're definitely more for like the hippie type of musician type roles, then trying to show up in like a formal suit, you might be perceived as a fascist, right? So know exactly what you're going for.
Or when we did our top 1% meetup in Miami, we were quite surprised, Moff and I, because there were some newer guys to online dating stuff. So we like opened our Tinders and set it up, put pictures like, all right, we have the exotic cars, and we have the yacht, and we have the mansion, and we've got the photographers, and we've got the whole Miami scene that you'd see on TV. And I noticed that I was getting good matches on Tinder. But like, hey, we've got this mansion, come on over, we have a party, and so-and-so's gonna be here, and this person's gonna be here, and we got this yacht. And then most of the girls are like, yeah, I'm not into that. And I'd let them know. I extended my trip. I always extend my trip. Like, oh, well, I'll be free a couple days after this, and I'll just get a hotel on the beach, and just kind of hang out. Like, yeah, let me know when you're done with all the mansion, yacht, exotic car stuff, and when you actually want
the rap music video. Yeah, when you're done shooting that.
I think there's a lot of content creators on these types of topics where they show that lifestyle. Like, you have to have this to get the chicks. I'm like, dude, I get bomb chicks in Miami because one, I speak perfect Spanish, and I've got the look that those types of girls go after. And a lot of times they're from like high class families in South America. They're not impressed by that stuff. They don't get like, okay, you're a bunch of dorks or wannabes trying to like flex on this shit. Again, when you come from 500 years of generational wealth, that's not impressive to these types of chicks.
Yeah, or it's like they're just bored with it now. It's like because they were doing all that stuff when they were like 18, 19, and now they're like 23, 24. They're like, all right, I've been doing that for like 4 years.
Yeah, can you hold a fucking conversation? Like, are you interesting?
Like, I'm done with that, right? For us, like this is our first time on a yacht. We're like, oh my gosh, like
I was like that too. I remember my first. Like, oh my god, it's so cool. Yeah. Now it's like, dude, I just want to
cool.
chill.
I finally got on the yacht, and it's like and I was thinking about this the other day, where it's like
and then you want to get off the yacht, and you're stuck on the yacht.
Yeah, first time I was on a yacht, like I was like 28, so I was on like 28 on the yacht, like this is great, but I'm like thinking of like a girl that's like my age, that's like attractive, right? 28. She's been on this yacht for 10 years already. So it's like you always have to factor in and remember that, like the perspective that these girls are coming from. So, if she's down for you and she likes you, then you bring her on the yacht, it's a plus. But if you like try to lead with the yacht first, you're going to get a very different type of response.
Yeah, I don't like to swim. So
yeah, there you go.
It's the mountains for me.
You'll notice, I know this isn't the topic, but we've done other shows. You're on your weight loss journey. You'll know as you get leaner, it gets harder to swim. You're not as buoyant. That kind of sucks. When I lost all my weight, I'm like, fuck, it's really hard to swim. Before I used to kind of glub along and float. Now I'm like, God, I really got to put in an effort.
I'm not really on the journey anymore. I've been 225 pounds for a couple weeks now.
Yeah, sometimes you stagnate or plateau. So I'm going to go through a couple more of these comments. So we addressed this one, never spend more than $20 on a first date. I was going to mention though, don't fall necessarily into these like steadfast hard rules. Like I can never do that, because I've done that before with girls too. Like first date should last an hour, or I remember back in the day, like 7-hour rule, or it needs 3 dates to get the lay, and then you realize like, no, you kind of know immediately if the spark's there or not, and then you can accelerate or decelerate the night, or you can even end dates too. There's been girls I've been out with where we're just not compatible. You can tell there's no chemistry. I'm like, hey, like, I don't know if you're feeling the same vibe, but I don't think like there's really a spark here, but you seem really cool and having a good conversation. you want to just go out and like fucking people watch and have a good night? Like I left my night open for you. Like, all right, cool. Like, and so you can reframe your dates a certain way. Or girls were like, okay, like got to get the lay within the hour, got to pull her from here, have it set up strategic by my house. And then you meet the girl and like, you really hit it off. And in my head, I'm just like, dude, it doesn't matter. This girl's mine all weekend if I want her. We're having such a good time to where like, okay, I can push the lay back because I kind of want to see where this night goes and have an adventure with this girl. And then she's obviously coming home with me because there's so much chemistry, so much attraction, so much of a spark that I don't have to go for an immediate lay. So yeah, rules are kind of like they're kind of put in place to give you like a general roadmap, but you can always deviate too.
Yeah, good guidelines. And again, if like, $20 is like absolutely going to completely break your budget, like more than that, then it's like, hey, level up a little bit more, get a little bit more income coming. So that way you can then like not have to sweat things. Right. So that'd be my advice.
Or the free dates. You can go to Kroger, less than $10 at the deli, and then get moving blankets are fantastic beach blankets because the sand doesn't stick to them. And lay that out. I did that in California quite a few times. No one complained. I am living in India, third world nation. No pretty girls here. Yeah, I've never been to India, but I know that I've met Indian girls outside of India that are pretty hot. But I'll take your word for it. Let's see. First date is a sniff test. Yeah, that's usually kind of how I see it. It's like a phone screen when you're going through like a job interview process. Just kind of seeing, hey, what are you looking for? What are your salary expectations? What does the interview process look like? Where are you at in your job search? You're just kind of trying to see if there's something there. Beautiful girls are in expensive places. Tristan Tate. I actually like that quote, and that is quite true. When you go to higher end places, the quality checks go up quite a bit.
Yeah, there's this one place that's in LA just opened up, and it's like, reservation only type spot, cocktails only type spot. But it's like, you go in there and the least attractive girl is an 11 out of 10. And you're just like, okay, I'm happy that I'm in this room. But also I know that sometimes you have to pay to play, right? To get to access to certain things. So it's just nature of the beast, right? And again, it depends on too, like what your aim is and what you're going for, right? So again, some, runway type girl, right, may not necessarily be objectively like your specific type. Maybe you like a girl that's a little bit thicker. All right, great. But typically the highest end places are all going to be filled with highly, highly, highly attractive girls. And it's where it helps a lot.
And unless you go, bro, like go to Medellin, Colombia, the ugliest girl you see there is like, shit, this chick's an 8 in LA. They're so stupid hot there, and that's not a rich city by any means. But if you go to Poblado in Medellin, that's the higher end neighborhood equivalent to where I live. I live in Polanco in Mexico City. Then you're gonna see some really, really high end chicks there. Let's see. I've seen the most beautiful girls in Dubai and Singapore, the richest cities in the world. Yeah, I could definitely see that.
Yeah, because again.
Same thing in the U.S. Well, Josh, you live in L.A. I used to make this point all the time because I came from a small town, and I lived in L.A. for a bit 2 years ago. And people are like, what's it like living in L.A.? It's like, all right, imagine the hottest girl in your high school, and then the hottest girl in your rival high school, and then the hottest girl in your buddy's high school. All of those girls moved to L.A. or Miami or New York. So that's kind of what it's like. Yeah, they did.
Yeah. It was funny because
literally
Rich Cooper, when he first
exaggeration.
Rich Cooper, his first trip out to L.A. when he came out, and we met up and linked up, and we were sitting having lunch. He's like, honestly, I thought there'd be like a lot more like purple haired, short, like buzz cut type of like, really unattractive, just like girls running around here. And it's like, no, they're all like, so many girls are just like
chicks in LA are down. The good thing is a lot of the guys in LA fall into that mindset. So you effectively, even me just being a normal dude, no competition. Josh, you and I have told the story. We have a very good time.
We do. We cannot be left unsupervised.
Yeah, but subscribe to the channel, watch previous streams. You guys will get that story. Many more to come. Let's see. Esteban the Bulldog from Kansas. There's plenty to do there. Go to Power and Light, a Kansas City Chiefs game in the Plaza. Yeah.
Bro. I don't live in Kansas City. I live in more rural Kansas than Kansas City. Otherwise, I wouldn't have said any of that shit because I totally agree with you. I used to live in Kansas City. It's pretty dope.
Kansas City, Kansas, or Kansas City?
I lived in Casey Mo. I actually lived in what's that? Lee Summit, which is south of KC. Yeah.
Dude, I hooked up with I call her the white trash Winnie Cooper in Power and Light District in Kansas City. She was super, super hot, but super low class. You could tell by the way she talked, and my buddies all gave me shit about that, but pretty girl. Turkish girls are sublime. Some of them in Dubai. I like the Middle Eastern girls, that more exotic Mediterranean type look.
There's a lot of them in LA. Let's just put it that way. The craziest girl I've ever hooked up with was Turkish. Like, I was driving her home and she was trying to crawl into the driver's seat to hook up with me while I'm driving. And I'm like, can we please?
Was it a stick shift?
No, thank God.
That makes it more difficult.
Oh
Fucking
my Lord.
grinding gears.
Oh my Lord. I mean, it was fun, but oh my God, she was wild. Let's put it that way.
Reading women is most important. Run compliance tests and make her jump through your hoops. I agree with that to a degree, but I don't like the term jumping through hoops. Like, I don't set up hoops or obstacles. Like I'm a prize. You must earn me or attain me. It's just kind of like, hey, here's what I got going on. It falls in accordance with my lifestyle. Like, during the week, I'm pretty chill. I don't really go out. If I do, it's like somewhere here in the neighborhood, like nothing crazy. I've got a pretty intense work schedule. Weekends, I'll open it up a bit, but I work a lot on the weekends too. So really, it's just kind of like, hey, here's who I am. Here's what I'm about. Here's the offer. I'm a marketer, so I always put out an offer for the experience, and either she says yes or no. But there's no hoops like, all right, like, go get my drink, or make sure you do this, or take off your goddamn shoes, or clean the dishes.
Sounds like a pain in the ass.
I notice when they do these things without me prompting them, and they can win brownie points. But yeah, I don't know if I like that term, jump through hoops.
Yeah, I agree.
All righty, more comments. Hey Lee, what's up? Just stating the appearance of financial success matters. LTR, real success beyond appearances, is necessary to lock down a high value, low red flags chick. High value chicks care about the ability to provision.
Yeah, I mean, that's again,
never missed.
When you're going to, shifting from casual dating to long-term relationship, then yeah, the finances are definitely a huge part of the equation, right? Especially the older you get, much higher the stakes become. So it's definitely extremely important to get that on. And again, you get all that stuff kind of locked in, it makes your casual dating that much better. But on the other hand, it's also like, kind of one of the essential requirements for that more long-term provisioning situation, right? Because again, if you're a girl, right, and you've got any sense, you don't want a guy that, like, you potentially could have children with, that, hey, is constantly like running out of cash or has no financial stability. Because again, that's a lot of stress, and that's the reason why a lot of couples break up. I think some studies said that like over 70% of couples break up because of economic reasons, and a lot of it is due to like a lot of economic instability and stress. So yeah,
makes sense.
I think that also comes down to the compatibility issue again, where, for example, if you're just looking for a one-night stand, she doesn't really care about your economic status. Like, just don't have a trashy, dumpy, dirty, disgusting, or unsafe place like in a ghetto neighborhood. But even then, like, I'm sure you guys have all met ghetto guys or guys that fit that description that do A-okay with the chicks. But
yep.
But when it's just for a night, she's not assessing your financial future. And the way I say, in terms of any area in life, I know I'm doing more successful in life when my vision into the future is longer down the road. So when I was in the situation where I'm broke, it's like, fuck, like, where's my meal coming from tomorrow? Or then it gets to like, okay, well, how am I going to stretch this out to the next paycheck? And then, okay, well, what's my money in versus money out on a monthly basis, quarterly, annual? Now my vision is like, what am I going to look like as a 50-year-old man? Because I've got things in order to where I can do things now that will impact who I am 15 years from now. And I think you have to kind of treat it the same way. If it's just like a same night lay, or maybe an F buddy who comes over every now and then, like, she's not going to really care. But as you transfer more into that long-term relationship type model, then you need to be able to look together further down the line in the future, and that vision has to match. So that's where I think being financially solvent comes into place, to where, okay, yeah, we're having a good time now, but like, are you going to be stable 15 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now, till death do us part, till we're a bunch of old fucks and we got to be put in hospice care? Like, are you the guy that I can go on this long-term ride for, or is it just kind of like, whatever, one night thing, in which case they might not care as much?
Yeah, and you got to match, you got to match lifestyles up too, right? Like, if you have a girl and you really like her, but like for her, it's, she travels essentially, she loves travel, so she wants to go on like 2 big international trips every year. Like, that's her thing, right? Nothing fundamentally wrong with that, but if you don't have the financial capability in order to provide that, right? Or some girls that they don't like travel at all, they hate the hassle, they just want to like stay home, and like their idea of like a trip is like going like 2 hours outside of the city, maybe for like a camping trip, or like to the next town over, and they're just totally fine with that. Then all right, great, that's fine. But you got to make sure that your lifestyles match up and are compatible in that sense. Because again, certain girls have certain economic lifestyle needs that make them feel comfortable and fulfilled. And it's not necessarily wrong, right? Like there's this myth out there that it's like, oh, if a girl likes nice, expensive stuff, she's a gold digger. It's like, well, nice, expensive stuff, it's nice. Like who doesn't like, nice bottles of champagne that taste great, or like, very nice, comfortable accommodations that are amazing and phenomenal. Like, hey, this is the best life has to offer. Like, why wouldn't people like, want, and strive towards that? So you have to understand again where, your girl's kind of vision for the ideal. Because I definitely dated girls that are much more basic and simple, and I want to like go off and conquer the world and do something really fancy, and they're just not into it, right? And so then it's like, all right, well, long term it's not necessarily going to work out, because again, I'm trying to pull her somewhere that she really doesn't care about or doesn't really want to go. And then I have other girls that are like, okay, if I'm if you don't have a jet and you can take me from X, Y, and Z at a whim's notice any given moment of the year, well, that's definitely something beyond my capability to provide at this stage. So you know what, we're not going to be the best fit. So, understanding where your girl's lifestyle is, as well as your own, and where those sync up and are compatible, that's also a huge thing on the when coming to determining your economics.
Yeah, and even if you are a man of means, I know that the image that pops in my head is you see the memes all the time, like Keanu Reeves. He's super humble and down to earth, and he rides the subway and doesn't have a lavish lifestyle. And I think that too. There, even like my financial literacy has improved considerably over the years, and my income has improved considerably over the years. But at the end of the day, like we talk about this all the time, like 95% of your day is pretty much like the same, like, just your basic day to day. So my lifestyle hasn't changed that much. So even if I did have like Bill Gates cash sitting in the bank, and a girl's like, oh, I want this type of lifestyle. Well, that's just not me. Even if I did have that money, I probably wouldn't live that way. Now, things like flying in first class internationally, well, yeah, that's a comfort thing. Yeah, I definitely enjoy that. But like, would I be sponsoring private jets or popping $50,000 bottles of whatever? Like, I barely even drink
caviar for breakfast every single morning. It's like
I'd probably eat the same shit that I eat now. Because
better
again,
quality.
Better quality, yeah, like organic, grass-fed, like locally sourced, yeah.
It's my favorite thing about
fancy your house or something, like just because you can, it doesn't mean anything, right?
Oh, my food budget is my biggest expense outside of rent, because I eat very well, but I live well.
My favorite fact about Warren Buffett is that he's like a huge McDonald's fan. Like he loves McDonald's, and he's like, if it's a good day, then I'll get like the McMuffins with the extra sausage. But if it's not a good day, then it's just the basic.
That's my grandparents' generation. They all think that way. Well, they grew up in like the Great Depression type era. Most billionaires have ugly wives. That's actually pretty funny. Yeah, a lot of them do.
True, because I mean, again, it's like, objectively speaking, right? Like especially when you start getting to a certain level of affluence, when you look at a lot of billionaires, a lot of them typically tend to be more on the nerdy side of the equation. But two, the other side, and the other side of the equation goes that
just old.
Really, when you start finding like, girls that you just vibe with and are, make your life like less of a headache, that girl becomes like the hottest girl on the planet to you. So while objectively, she will never, ever be shot by Vogue or make the cover of Maxim, to that guy, hey, she makes my life, compliments my life, and she makes it easy. Great. By all means, like that's so, this is the problem with the space, is there's always too a little bit of that, like, hey, if you aren't like dating 9s and 10s, somehow like you're a loser, or like you're dating the wrong girls. It's like, well, no, actually, like find what girls like you find really attractive and that work and vibe really well with you, and you get the best quality situation for yourself. So whatever somebody else has to say objectively, who cares? Like,
fuck them.
You like them, do your thing.
I've noticed in my dating life, because I've run the volume model for a few years now, and you do get to a point where you can start dating those higher tier girls. But a lot of times, the girls I really dig are the ones that I just vibe well with, like you mentioned, Josh. The ones that can come over, we can just cook dinner together, but we have music on and we're both singing in the background, and she's fucking, kind of flirting around in the kitchen and little tickle fights here and there, and then we can eat a really good meal and watch something on Netflix, and then sex is usually bomb, and then pass out, and like just the overall good experience. Those are the girls that I gravitate towards nowadays, rather than like, obviously, 10's a 10 or like a 9's a 9. You're like, oh shit, that chick's hot. Should be fun to fuck. But a lot of times, like, what else is there? And a lot of guys, no one in this space talks about what it looks like to have success in this space. That is subjective. It looks differently for you. But there's a lot of guys, especially in our private type groups, guys that have been there and done that. Josh, I know you've been there. I've gotten to that point where I'm there too. It's like abundant, like there's no such thing as an abundance mindset. We just have abundance. And at that point, like, who's the girl I like being around with best? And I've mentioned this on my channel plenty of times, and my buddy Moff says this on his stereo show all the time, that most of the time when you're with a chick, you're not in an intimate type situation. You're just kind of hanging out. So who's the girl you can actually like hang out with? And one, she doesn't annoy you. And two, not only does she not annoy you, but you actually enjoy her presence. It actually adds value to sitting there doing nothing together. Those are the kind of girls that I've noticed that I'm going towards more.
And there's slightly different things you have to deal with too, right? Because it's like, well, gosh, maybe like 10 years ago, my girlfriend at the time, she was Playboy golf buddy. So, I mean, really hot girl, right? But like, we also vibe super well. Awesome girl, super down for girl. Great, fantastic. We had a great time. But it was also like, when you're out with a girl that's very marketably attractive, all the attention and a lot of unwanted attention suddenly comes now suddenly, like, because guys get in that like, oh, who's this dickhead, right, going out with this hot girl, right?
I kind of like that. I like it when my girl gets that attention. A lot of guys get jealous. I'm just like, fuck yeah.
It's
like,
definitely fun, but then it's also like, it's a lot to deal with when you have like constantly guys like coming up trying to shoot their shot like in front of you or whatever, and you just gotta be like, all right, whatever, cool. Like I'm not worried. Like, I'm just coming over.
I think it's hilarious.
Like,
for the girl, I'll be like, hey, do you want me to leave you two alone? Should I get your room? But especially down here, like the girls know that I can go replace her very quickly. So it's nice as a guy when you're in that situation, like, okay, she gets a lot of attention, but I also get a lot of attention. So when you're both kind of at that level and the SMB wise, it makes things quite fun. And then you're like, and most of the guys are losers. And then most of the other girls, that I could replace her with, they're not at her level. And but you have that mutual understanding, especially when you have that bond or that connection with the girl, then it's just kind of fun.
Oh, that's true. But yeah, it could definitely bring on a lot of different things. But again, like, go for what girls you find to be attractive, right? And then what girls that you vibe with as well. And then, don't let somebody tell you like, hey, it's a 10 for 10 for you. Like, it doesn't have to be like across the universal scale. Like, there's a lot of nuance and subjectivity in this field.
Yeah, I see a lot of guys, especially in these types of topics or these spaces, where they're like, "Oh, well, this would a 10 by 10 or like a true HB, what they used to call it, like the hot body scale, the HB 10 looks like." And I'll see the chick, I'm like, "Dude, have you ever actually like banged a chick that looks like that? Like, look at her face when she wakes up with no makeup on. A lot of them don't look that way." And like, I like the real kind of like natural beauties, like the girls, like every 90s teen rom-com where like the girl doesn't know she's hot, but all she has to do is remove the glasses, put on a little bit of makeup to accentuate her features, and now she's a fucking dime piece. Like, those are the girls
keep the glasses on, baby.
Yeah, I like that too. I like the nerdy girls. When we were in Nashville for the meetup, you mentioned museums earlier. I went out with some of the guys like, oh, let's do like some day game. I'm like, yeah, I never do like dedicated day game sessions. Like, oh, let's go to a museum. Like, dude, what the fuck? I'm like, dude, museums are the best place to meet chicks. Museums and airports. Like, just clutch all day long.
But again, it's like, it just depends. Like, people like will swear Beyonce is the hottest girl of all time. For me, I'm like, I think she's attractive, but she's not like, there's definitely girls that I've seen there's definitely girls that I've seen on, like covers of other magazines where like, okay, like that girl, like, yes. So
if she wants to be my sugar mama, hey, babe, like, Scott.
Paging Oprah, right?
Yeah, there we go. Ooh, that'd be a tough ride. All right. Sal Gray. Agreed. There are so many good people out there, just not compatible. I don't like it when a girl demonizes a good guy just because they didn't match at all. Yeah, a lot of times I would say it comes down to attraction, availability, and compatibility. And then once you get those three things, and usually you're kind of all right.
And the inverse is true. A lot of guys demonize a lot of like solid chicks, right? Just because,
dude, a lot of hot chicks are cool as fuck.
Yeah.
Once I got to that point where I could start dating higher quality chicks, because I used to think that way too. Like, oh, these girls only like losers or guys that are like this. And then once I dropped all that bullshit, I'm like, I'm a nerd. Like, once I got to the point where I embraced my inner nerd and started putting that out there to people, I'm like, oh my God, my quality of girls went way up. Like, a part of me that I thought I had to hold back from the sexual market because I'm not a red pill alpha cool guy all the time.
Yeah.
Like, the minute I got rid of that bullshit, I'm like, oh, a lot of hot chicks are really smart. They're really successful. They have a lot going on. They're more than just their looks. It's kind of a full package there. You know that, like, guys, we talk about this in like the top 10% group, 1% groups all the time. Like, guys that usually have shit going on, they usually take better care of their physical appearance. Well, I've found that to be true with a lot of women too. Let's see. Wife of billionaires may have exceptional talents because they're dealing with enormous wealth. I'm starting to sense, yeah, there might be a mindset issue there, and that's the topic we're trying. Like we're trying to address the different dating experiences across different socioeconomic levels. But I want to be very careful, guys aren't falling into the mindset like, oh, I can't get top tier chicks unless I'm wealthy. Like it helps, it definitely helps, but again, to get to, Josh made a good point earlier, to get to that point, there's certain areas of yourself internally you have to develop, unless you're like a trustee, or which, you know, a lot of those guys end up being losers or druggies, drunks, dropouts anyways. But yeah, be very careful of that mindset of like, okay, well, you can only get these girls if you're exceptionally wealthy. Again, it makes accessibility a lot easier, but at the end of the day, there has to be some compatibility there. A lot of these guys, their wives walk away and take half their wealth too, because the guys don't know what the fuck they're doing.
Yeah, like with a lot of things, it gets you in the door. But once you do what you do with it while you're in there, that's entirely more so up to you, right? So, you know.
Well, alrighty, that clears out all of the chat topics. Guys, anything else you want to bring up, or should we start winding her on down?
We can do that.
All right, cool. Yeah, the silence indicates the answer there. So let's go around the horn, guys. Let people know who you are, what you're up to, where people can find you, what you're selling, and then we'll go ahead and tie it on up.
Renegade Wingman, and yeah, thanks for having me on as always, Jaron. It's always a pleasure. Yeah, I've known Jaron for a while. We got connected through originally Rich Cooper's community, and member of the 1%, also an admin in the top 10% group. And yeah, you can find me through my website or my Instagram, which also has a link to my personal Instagram on there. Renegade Wingman at renegadewingman.com or at Renegade Wingman on Instagram. But I do a lot of dating, lifestyle coaching, consultative services, as well as more recently, more on cryptocurrencies, as well as some other broader lifestyle focus areas of focus. So book a call, mention the podcast, and I'll give you a discount as well, because I always like to do it to or give a reward for those good listeners. So if you hit me up, just say, hey, I heard you on Jaron's podcast. I'll definitely hook you up with a discount on my consulting services.
Alrighty, Esteban, Steve.
And you can find me on IG, Esteban the Bold, but I have nothing to sell you.
Except for your good looks and witty charm. Yep.
What do you have to sell him? That's the real question.
There you go. Yeah, it's a mindset shift. All right, guys, and you probably know me. I'm Jaron Scott. Find me on Instagram at Jaron Scott. If you're interested in the top 10% group, Josh and I are admins in there. Steve is recently a member of the top 10% group, so we have a lot of good guys in that network. We are building it daily. That is for men of all areas, or looking to level up in all areas of love and life by building lives worth living and loving. A lot of guys reach out like, hey, where do I find like-minded men who aren't insert whatever thing they don't want guys to be like, who they want to hang out with? Well, this is the place to do it. So it's a $9.97 lifetime membership fee. So once you're in, you're in. We have a lot of these types of conversations, comprehensive type posts. We have calls and meetups and Q&As and workshops and all sorts of fun stuff in there. Again, a lot of the value in these networks comes from other members in the network. We've had some real ringers come in there recently, and we're looking to continue that growth. So again, top 10% group, hit me up on Instagram at Jaron Scott to sign up. $9.97 US. That is a lifetime membership fee. That being said, guys, if you got value to this content, please do me a favor. If you haven't already done so, like the video, subscribe to the channel, ring the notification bell, enable all notifications for this channel. Otherwise, you will not get this content recommended to you. If there's anything we missed, anything you want to add, any questions, comments, whatever, leave them in the comments field down below. And if you know anyone else who might dig what we're doing here, then go ahead and share it with your friends. Word of mouth is a fantastic marketing method. And that being said, guys, I want to thank everyone for stopping on by. And until next time, we shall bid you all farewell.